Hey, thanks for stopping by today. Today we've got a fun project. I'm going to show you how to do a complete wrap on this JDS 32-ounce sports bottle. We're going to start from scratch. I'm going to show you how to lay it out and how it's all going to come together at the end. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the equipment that I've got. I'm using a Thunder Nova 35 100 watt laser. Absolutely love that machine. I'll give you a link to that company down in the description. The other thing that we're using today is an American Photonics 1.5" lens. I really like that lens for engraving tumblers, and here's why. You'll see in later video how clean it leaves a tumbler when it's engraved. Now I'll have a little bit of cleanup, but very little. You're going to see that for yourself when we start and finish this engrave. Love that lens. We're also going to put this sports bottle in a pie burn version 4.0. I've only had the pie burn for a couple of months, but I've done quite a few tumblers and I really enjoy that rotary. The other thing that we're going to talk a little bit about when we get into light burn is how critical things are going to be when you do something like this. You have very little wiggle room in your layout along with your steps per rotation because it's all critical. You don't really have much wiggle room when you're doing a simple tumbler layout where you might have a logo on opposite sides of the tumbler. Your layout and your steps can be close, but they don't have to be perfect, and you'll never notice it. In this particular design, if you're just close, you're going to see it in the layout, and you're not going to want that. So I'll show you how to kind of verify how things are going to need to be set up. And in some cases, you might have to do some last minute tweaking to make sure that everything comes together and you don't see a seam. These are real popular for me. I get a premium dollar amount. People don't seem to mind paying the higher cost. And I put together this particular pattern this morning just for this video. So you'll see once we get into light burn and you pick a shape, you can go with it and come up with your own unique designs. It's not going to be hard, I promise. So let's go to light burn and get started. And before you know it, we're going to be burning a tumbler just like this. Here in light burn, we're going to get started. The first thing that we need to do is measure the diameter of that 32-ounce sports bottle. And so that is 3.53. So I'm going to go ahead. I've got my rotary connected to my laser. I'm going to open the rotary setup dialog box. The steps per rotation for the pie burn is 8,000 steps. We're going to confirm that that's going to work okay. Roller diameter is already set, and so I'm going to key in 3.53 inches, and that calculates to 11.89 circumference. Now these two things don't do anything, as you can see by what it says right here, but you will need this circumference number, because this circumference number is going to dictate the height of your template that you're going to set up. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a rectangle in Lightburn that is 11.898 tall, and then the engraving width of your tumbler. So in this particular case, those JDS sports bottles, it has an engraving area of 6.75 inches. So that's all good to go. We're going to go ahead and create our rectangle. It's going to be 6.7 inches wide. That's the engraving area. So you're looking at this sports bottle sideways. And then the height of the rectangle is going to be 11.890 inches tall. Now, just so it's easier for all of us to follow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this 90 degrees while we lay this out. And then once we get the layout completely done, we'll turn it 90 degrees and get it ready for the rotary. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do to get started is I'm going to come up here in this upper left-hand corner. I'm going to make just a simple rectangle. Okay, I'm going to color it blue for my engrave, And I'm going to go ahead and make sure this is unlocked, and I want an inch, excuse me, I want a 1/2 inch wide rectangle, and I want an inch long, or I should say an inch high. So we've got 1/2 inch wide by 1 inch tall. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to turn this rectangle into a diamond. And to do that, we're going to have to do a little node editing. And so if you don't know how to node edit, there's several videos. It's hugely powerful. I would really encourage you guys to learn it. But anytime you have a shape, I can't change this shape the way it is right now. I have to convert it to a path. So I'm going to come up here to Edit and say Convert to Path. And then I'm going to come over here to my node editing tool. And now you can see I've got my different nodes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, and if you hover along this line, you'll see that it's just a straight line, and when you get to the middle there, that shows you the middle point between those two nodes. And I'm going to hit the I key to insert a node. And then I'm going to do the same all the way around. So I'm going to just type the I key, hit the I key, hit the I key. Then I'm going to go ahead and select the corners and hit the D key, not the delete key, but the D key to get rid of these corners. And now we have a diamond. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to insert another node between this node and this node so we can give these areas a slight curve. So I'm going to go back and do the same thing, wait for my bullseye, hit I. The same thing, I. Come on, I. Okay. Now I want, these are regular nodes, I want these to be smooth nodes. And so what I'm going to do is select it and hit the letter S, and that will give me some smooth modes. Okay, so now all these are smooth nodes. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these nodes that I put in the middle. I've selected them, and I'm going to hold the Shift key and the Control key down and use my right arrow and go to the right 9 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then down 9 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to do the same thing on the rest of the corners. I'm going to do my left arrow now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Same all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. Now we've got our modified triangle. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the offset tool and create an inner shape that's 0.05. And you'll see why we do that here in just a little bit. So this is going to be my basic shape to create our pattern. So I'm going to group that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this right on the center. And if you have your snap to objects on, you notice that I have my outline here. And if I grab this middle handle here, it should snap to that line. And that's what you want, because this is going to be kind of the first step that we use in order to set up our alignment so all of our diamonds come together. So if you don't have your object snaps on, come up to your gear icon, and your object snap to objects is right here. Turn that on if it's off. The first thing we want to do is turn on our full line cursor. And what I mean by that is you see this big X that follows my mouse cursor around. When you're doing layouts like this, it really helps. So if you don't have this turned on, you can come up to the gear icon, and it lives right here where it says show full screen line cursor. Turn that on and you'll have the ability to have basically alignment guides as you're laying this out. So what we're going to do is, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select this double diamond, we're going to right mouse click, we're going to duplicate, and I'm going to arrow over. And I'm going to zoom in here. I want this fairly close, so I'm going to hold the shift key and the control key down at the same time and left arrow and get this point somewhat close. After that, I'm going to go ahead and select both of these, and I'm going to duplicate it again. Zoom out a little bit here, and I'm just going to go ahead and pull it up here. And this is where your layout guides really help. So when I start to move, if I hold the shift key and the control key down and start to move this around, you'll notice that that alignment guide shows in the middle of my design. And so I know when these are lined up. So now I'm going to drive this right down in between these, and right now we can see that we've got the edge over here, got the edge over here, and we're in pretty good shape. So right now I'm going to go ahead and group these, and we'll go on to the next step. Once we have our primary pattern down, it's just a matter of using the rectangular array tool and figuring out the spacing, those kind of things. And so this next section is kind of the most critical, and once you learn how to use this tool right down here, it'll be a game changer for you. There are so many things you can do with this tool, you'll be amazed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, want to make sure they're grouped, which they are. And then I'm going to come down here to the rectangular array tool. Let's make sure I've got my black frame turned on right now so we can see it. And then I'm going to come down to the rectangular array tool. I'm going to come over here so we can see everything. And so if you haven't used this tool before, it's very powerful. There's lots and lots of stuff you can do. So the first thing that we've got to do is we're going to start to duplicate our X columns. And what we want to do is we'll duplicate one and we'll zoom in here. And this X spacing will bring this group closer to this group. And if you notice now, if I go to the negative, it'll slowly snuggle that in. Okay, and we want basically the same spacing or very close to it if we can get it that way. And it looks like that's pretty close. Okay, so now we know that our spacing's pretty uniform. We'll zoom back out here and we're just going to multiply our columns, and we're going to leave that as it is for right now. Now we're going to go to our Y rows. So we're going to repeat this pattern going down. And what's really nice about this tool is it has a shift by half process. So if this is not checked and I go, it's going to just basically move everything straight down. I don't want that. I want to shift it over by half, because it's got a, that way you weave in your seam. So you don't want, you want it to alternate. So you'll notice now, if I zoom in here, I've got to get the spacing tightened up in here. And the way I would do that is I would go negative and drive that right in. And again, you're going to want to make sure that your spacing is roughly the same. Like about like that. Okay? All right. And then it's just a matter of going, see, it alternates. It goes left, then it goes right, then it goes left, then it goes right. And so my rule of thumb when I'm laying these out is I try not to go too much outside your Tumbler template. You're going to have some of this stuff hanging out. And we may have to stretch it or shrink it down a little bit, but you don't want to get too awfully crazy. So we're going to leave that the way it is right now and say, okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the black layer off so I can't see it, and I'm going to group this bunch right now. What we're going to do next is we're going to verify that our seam goes together properly. And the easiest way I've found to do this is I'm going to take the design elements on this side and copy it and bring it over to this side and make sure everything lines up. Now what I like to do for this is I like to go to the window and go to toggle wireframe filled, and that way I can actually see a preview of my design. It's just a little bit easier to see. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my design is ungrouped, which it is. I'm going to come down here starting with the right, going to the left, and just grab the Tumbler template and just the right edge of our design elements. Then I'm going to right mouse click, duplicate, and I'm going to left arrow. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to basically make sure that everything lines up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in here. The idea is that we're going to put the corner of this template box to the corner of this template box. And if we do, everything should line up. So I'm going to hold the shift key, the control key down, and the right arrow, and we're going to drive this design, this copy design, to see that the left edge and the right edge are going to seam. And so zooming in, looks like there it is right there. And so now if we go down, we can see these selected parts are lining up perfectly. And so we know that the seam that we've generated is going to work fine. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the delete key to get rid of that. And at this point, our layout is done. What we would normally do is at this point, I might not want to try to engrave all of this. I may just take a portion of this, just take this portion and engrave it on a tumbler, or better yet, and I'll show a picture of this, I covered a tumbler in tape and I just engraved the seam on how that was. And so that worked out pretty well as too. So what I did is I just took this section, copied it, moved it, took this section, copied it, moved it, and then just engraved the seam. And you'll see a picture here of what I did there. I think my setting was 500 millimeters per second at 10% power, just to mark the blue tape. And that seemed to work pretty good. Matter of fact, I believe I've got a note here. Let's see. 512 actually for the test pattern on the tape. If you don't know about this project notes, it's a great feature. It hides up here in File, Show Notes. That information is unique to this file. So that way you can double check it. And at that point, we can load it in and get it started. Let's go to the laser. One more thing before we head to the laser, I just wanted to make a couple of notes here. I'm going to turn this Tumbler template off. I'm going to go ahead and make sure this is grouped. So now it's grouped. I'll turn the Tumbler template back on. And so what I probably want to do is I want to stretch this a little bit horizontally and vertically, vertically. And because we're changing the left and the right at the same pace, it will still match fine. And now at this point, what I would normally do is I would group them all, the Tumbler template and the design. I would hit my period key to rotate it 90 degrees. I would make sure on a pie burn, the Tumbler top is to the right. So I want to go middle right on my user origin. And now this Tumbler template's ready to go ahead and kick to the laser. Hey, just a quick tip before we put this in the rotary. Quick way to go ahead and make sure that your rotary is parallel to your gantry. I just use a piece of blue painter's tape. I got a flat bottomed machinist square, and go ahead and put the mark on it. And then I lay this in the rotary and line my red light up to the line, and I know that my bottle is parallel with my gantry. Hope that helps. All right, we got this pattern started. This is on the 32-ounce JDS sports bottle in purple. I'm running it on a Pyburn version 4, and I've also got a spacer ring on the right-hand side there, so I didn't have to adjust my steps. A shout out to Michael Hartman for sending me those. I'll put a link to his Etsy store in the description. So this is going to take about 25 minutes to engrave this full wrap, so I will be back when we get down to where the seam is going to be, and we'll hope we did everything right, see how it turns out. Okay, we're getting close to the end where the seam is. Let's see how we did. We're at about 24 minutes on this engrave right now, right? We're very close to what the estimated was. So it looks like she might come together pretty nicely. As you can see, I'm gonna have very little cleanup here. It's pretty nice. Settings at 500 millimeters per second at 50% power, and that's on the Nova 35100 watt. Look at that. I think we're gonna be okay. There we go. There's our complete wrap. Let's check it out. Okay, got this off the rotary and got her cleaned up a little bit with a little Enduramark blue. And let's spin her around and see if we can find the seam. I think we're in pretty good shape. Yeah, that looks great. So that's how you do a complete wrap. Well, as you can see, it's just not that hard to lay this stuff up. If you take it step by step, you can grab a bottle and put a seamless design on it like this. With your skills in light burn, trust me, you can do this. You use the rectangular array tool and you'll be able to do this just like I did. Just take it step by step. Be methodical in your layout and your steps, and you'll have it done. If you like the content, I'd sure appreciate a thumbs up, a like. If you haven't, I'd really appreciate the subscription. That means a lot to me. If you have the ability, hit that thanks button and contribute to the channel. It's those contributions that are making content like this possible, and it means so much to me if you could do that. Until next time, I appreciate it. I hope this information was helpful to you. Have a great day.